Welcome back to the deep dive. I have to admit, when I first looked at the source material for today, I almost put it in the reject pile.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean, it's a document titled Field Report, which sounds normal enough, but then you read the byline, and it claims to be written by an alien anthropologist stationed on Earth.
Right, which usually means you're in for some kind of sci-fi gimmick.
Exactly. It's usually a trope to make fun of how we, drink cow milk or wear ties to work.
I know exactly what you mean. But I am so glad you didn't toss this one out.
Me too.
Because once you get past that initial alien premise, this is actually one of the most piercing psychological breakdowns of the modern human condition I think I've ever read.
It really is. It stops being a gimmick by about page 2 and just starts feeling like a mirror. A very uncomfortable mirror, honestly.
Yeah.
Because the report isn't interested in our politics or our technology. It's focused entirely on what it calls transaction addiction.
And we should probably clarify right off the bat, this isn't about shopping addiction or gambling or credit card debt.
Right. No, not at all.
The alien anthropologist is using the word transaction to describe an existential state. The core thesis here is that humans unconsciously and constantly process every single moment through one specific question.
What do I get from this?
Exactly. What do I get from this?
That's the operating system metaphor the report uses, right?
Yes.
It says our nervous systems are literally configured to view reality as just a series of deals.
It's not a personality type for some people. It's the default setting for the species.
Wow.
The report suggests that for a human, a conversation is just a transaction where you trade words for social capital.
Sure.
A relationship is a transaction where you trade intimacy for security. Even looking at a sunset is processed as, I am trading my time to receive a feeling of awe.
That is exactly where it started to really click for me. It's the idea that we can't just be...
No, we can't.
We always have to be doing something for something else. I mean, the report literally lists being alive on a Thursday as something we try to turn into a deal.
It's the sheer inability to experience something without trying to extract value from it.
Right.
And the report breaks this down into 6 specific configurations or postures.
Like a taxonomy.
A taxonomy of how we try to negotiate with the universe, basically.
And I'll warn you, listening right now, you are going to see yourself in at least 3 of these. I know, I definitely did.
Oh, absolutely.
So let's just dive right into the baseline. The source calls configuration 1 the transactor.
This is the default mode. The transactor is the person who has fully accepted the premise that life is a marketplace.
Right.
Every interaction has an ROI, a return on investment. If I go to this party, who am I going to meet?
Or if I read this book, what knowledge am I going to extract?
Exactly.
The part that really hit home for me was the section on leisure. I actually found myself getting a little defensive.
About the recharging thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because the report says the transactor doesn't actually know how to rest. They only know how to recharge.
It's a subtle distinction, but it's devastating, isn't it?
It is. Because I say that all the time. I'll say, oh, I just need to recharge this weekend.
We all do.
But the report argues that recharging is just a maintenance transaction. You aren't resting for the sake of resting.
Right. You are resting so that you can be productive again on Monday.
Exactly. You're treating yourself like a battery, not a person.
You're servicing the machine.
Yeah.
But here is where that alien perspective actually offers some real compassion.
How so?
Well, the report argues that the transactor isn't doing this because they're greedy or shallow. They are doing it because they are terrified.
Terrified of what?
The void.
Okay, we need to pause on the void for a second. Because that sounds very abstract and philosophical. What does the report actually mean by that?
Think about the last time you were standing in line at the grocery store and you realized you left your phone in the car.
Oh, no.
Right. You have nothing to read, no one to talk to, nothing to buy in that exact second. You are just waiting.
Yeah.
That creeping sense of anxiety, that feeling of, I should be doing something right now, that is the void.
Oh, I know that feeling so well. It's like an itch you can't scratch.
It's the deep fear that if you are not exchanging, if you aren't inputting or outputting value, you might just cease to exist.
Wow.
The transaction acts as a membrane. It's a shield that keeps that nothingness at bay. The transactor is basically thinking, I trade, therefore I am.
There's a specific tell the report mentions for spotting a transactor in the wild. And it made me laugh out loud because I have definitely said it.
The takeaway line.
Yes. It says, you know you're dealing with a transactor if you show them a breathtaking piece of art or a beautiful sunset. And they turn to you and ask, so what's the takeaway?
It's tragic, really.
It is.
They are trying to download the bullet points of a sunset. They can't just let the beauty exist. They have to wrap it up in a neat takeaway to justify the time they spent looking at it.
So the transactor is the person who is successfully playing the game. They're making deals, they're getting the returns. But what happens when the math just stops working?
That is where we get configuration 2. Because what happens when you work hard, you're a good person, you pay your taxes, and then you get sick.
Or your partner leaves you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The deal is broken. And this moves us into the rager.
The rager. This is the person who is basically screaming at the manager of the universe.
Precisely. The rager is a transactor who has suddenly realized that deals aren't being honored.
Right.
They are furious because they believe they're owed something. It's that feeling of, I put the coins in the vending machine, where is my candy?
I think we tend to see anger as the opposite of cold, calculated business. We usually think of rage as this raw, uncontrolled, wild thing.
Right. But the report argues that rage is actually deeply transactional.
That's such a key insight.
The alien anthropologist calls rage the receipt for a deal that went bad.
Man, that's good.
When you are raging, you are essentially aggressively demanding a refund. You haven't left the marketplace at all. You're just standing at the counter pounding your fist.
The analogy they used for this one was a hamster wheel.
Yes. The rager is like a hamster that realizes the wheel is rigged. It knows it's not going anywhere.
But it responds by running faster and harder anyway.
Exactly. They think the solution to a bad deal is to enforce the deal with even more energy.
It's exhausting just describing it. You're pouring all this precious energy into a system that has already completely failed you.
And the real tragedy is they usually feel like rebels.
Oh, that's true.
They think they are fighting the system.
Mm-hmm.
But as long as you are obsessed with what you are owed, you are still entirely trapped in the economy.
There's a great line in the diagnostic section for this configuration. It says, the rager knows exactly what they are owed, but has no idea what they are.
Which is a very painful way to live. Their whole identity is just a list of unpaid debts.
Right.
But there's actually a way to make it even more complicated.
Of course there is.
You can take this transactional nature and dress it up in spiritual clothes.
Oh, boy. Configuration 3, the optimizer.
Yes.
This is the one that I think is going to annoy a lot of people in the self-help and wellness worlds.
The report calls this the premium subscription to the simulation.
I felt personally attacked by this entire section.
A lot of people will.
Because the optimizer is the person who meditates, does yoga, journals every morning, practices gratitude. But they're doing it all with the exact same what do I get mindset as the transactor.
Exactly. And this is tricky, right? Because on the surface, these look like really healthy behaviors.
Yeah, they are the things we were told to do.
But the alien asks, why are you doing them? The optimizer is calculating the ROI on silence.
Right.
They're thinking, if I meditate for 20 minutes, I will get 15% more focus at work.
Okay, but wait, let me play devil's advocate here for a second.
Go for it.
Isn't that a good thing? I mean, if I want to be less stressed and meditation helps me be less stressed, why is it a trap to want that result?
That is the million-dollar question.
Right.
The report argues that the trap isn't the activity itself. The trap is the death grip on outcomes.
The death grip on outcomes?
The optimizer talks endlessly about surrender and letting go. But they are only surrendering so that they can win.
I see. It's just another strategy. It's like saying, I will let go of control because I read that is the most effective way to gain control.
Bingo. It's using the tools of liberation to just build a much nicer cage.
Wow.
The report says this is actually the hardest configuration to break out of because it feels so incredibly virtuous.
You feel like you're doing the right work.
Exactly. You think you're waking up, but you're actually just dreaming that you're awake. You're journaling to, as the report puts it, gain a competitive advantage over yesterday's self.
That phrase is so corporate. A competitive advantage over yesterday's self. It's like we're treating our own souls like a tech startup that needs to scale.
And the diagnostic tell here is hilarious.
Yes, tell them.
The report says you can spot an optimizer because they have calculated the optimal number of minutes to spend in silence.
I find that 12 minutes is efficient, but 15 yields diminishing returns.
Exactly. It's just gamifying the inner life.
Okay, so we've got the person making the deals, which is the transactor, the person screaming about bad deals, the rager, and the person trying to hack the deal, the optimizer.
Right.
But what happens when someone looks at this whole circus and just says, this is all fake?
That brings us to configuration 4, the collapser.
The nihilist.
The nihilist. The collapser is the person who finally sees the operating system for what it actually is.
They see the matrix.
They see the absurdity of the transactor and the deep hypocrisy of the optimizer. They realize, wait a minute, none of this actually means anything. The points are entirely made up.
But instead of that realization setting them free, it completely crushes them.
Right, because they make a massive logical error.
What's the error?
They mistake the death of the transaction for the death of meaning itself.
Ah.
They think, if there is no deal to be made here, then there is no point in being alive.
The report uses a fish analogy in this section that I found really helpful to visualize this.
Yes, it describes a fish that finally notices the water.
Right, the water being the transactional medium everyone is swimming in.
Exactly. And because the water is everywhere, the fish concludes that swimming itself is pointless.
It's that heavy, wet blanket of depression.
Yeah.
It's that feeling of, why even bother getting out of bed today? It's just going to be another day of fake deals.
Oh. But the really interesting thing is how the alien anthropologist views the collapser. There is a lot of tenderness in this part of the report.
There is.
The report says the collapser is actually closest to the door.
Which is wild because they seem the most miserable out of everyone.
They are. But they aren't suffering from illusions anymore. They are suffering from the loss of their illusions.
That makes sense.
They are standing right on the threshold of freedom. But they're paralyzed because they don't know how to move without a transaction to guide them.
They need a reason.
They're waiting for a reason to move, and the universe isn't giving them one.
The diagnostic indicator for this one is really poignant. It says, the collapser declares it's all meaningless with the emotional intensity of someone for whom it means everything.
That's the core paradox of nihilism. If it really didn't matter, they wouldn't be so terribly upset about it.
Right.
Their despair proves they still care deeply. They just can't find a safe place to put that care.
Now, the next configuration is one that apparently wasn't even in the initial draft of the field report. The source says it insisted on being included.
Configuration 5. The relapse.
The relapse.
And this, I would argue, is where 90% of the people listening to this deep dive right now actually live. I know, I definitely do.
The relapse is someone who has actually tasted the other side, right?
Yes. The relapse is someone who has had a real moment. Maybe it was out in nature, maybe it was during a severe crisis, or maybe just staring at a sleeping child.
Where the operating system just completely shut down.
Exactly. The what do I get question vanished.
Yeah.
And they just felt connected, just real.
They know the door exists because they've walked through it.
But they can't stay there.
This section talks a lot about gravity. It says we don't go back to being transactors because we're stupid or weak. We go back because the old habits have mass.
They have a gravitational pull. Imagine you have a moment of perfect peace on a Tuesday morning. You aren't trying to achieve anything at all.
You're just drinking coffee and watching the rain.
It's beautiful. But then, almost immediately, the brain kicks in and says, wow, this is great. How do I make sure this happens again tomorrow?
Right.
Did the coffee cause this? Was it the rain?
And boom. You've just turned a moment of pure grace back into a transaction.
You're trying to buy it again.
You're trying to negotiate with the divine.
Exactly. The relapse is that painful, constant cycle of waking up and then falling right back asleep. The report calls it the struggle between I see and I live from what I see.
I loved the visual detail for this one. It says you can spot a relapse because they own 3 books on non-attachment arranged by purchase date.
Trying to organize the chaos of enlightenment on a bookshelf, it's so human. We really try so hard.
So is there an actual exit to this? Or are we just doomed to bounce between these different states forever?
That leads us to the final configuration, configuration 6, the dissolver.
The dissolver. Now, the report is very careful in this section. It says clearly that this is not a destination.
No, it's not a badge you earn or a final level to beat. It is a process.
It describes the sensation not as winning the game, but simply losing interest in playing it.
Yes. Remember, the transactor fears that stopping the deal will feel like dying, like that void we talked about earlier.
Right.
But the dissolver discovers that when you finally stop asking, what do I get? You don't die. You get peripheral vision.
I really love that image. Tunnel vision is focusing entirely on the prize, but peripheral vision is seeing the whole landscape.
When you aren't desperately trying to extract value from the moment, you can actually inhabit the moment.
The report uses the metaphor of a card table here.
It does. The transactor is obsessively playing the hand. The rager is flipping the table over in anger.
And the dissolver?
The dissolver just notices they're sitting in a room, stands up and looks out the window.
They just leave the table, but not because they're angry, just because they see the sky outside and it's more interesting.
And the really key thing here is that the transactional thoughts still come up. The brain is still going to ask, what's the ROI on this?
Sure, the conditioning doesn't just vanish.
Right. But the dissolver treats that thought like weather. Oh, look, a cloud of greed is passing through.
They notice it, but they don't identify with it.
Exactly.
The diagnostic indicator for the dissolver is pretty meta. It says they find this whole taxonomy amusing rather than threatening.
Because they don't need to be graded anymore. They're off the hook.
You know, after going through all 6 of these configurations, it is really easy to feel a bit heavy.
Yeah.
Like we're just broken machines running bad software. But I was really touched by the closing field note in the report.
Me too. It shifts the tone completely. The alien anthropologist stops analyzing and just starts appreciating us.
It says the alien observes the human species with love, and it notes that love is the only phenomenon in our entire system that isn't transactional, even though we try really, really hard to make it one.
We do try. We try to say, I love you if you love me back. But real love doesn't work that way. And the alien points out that every single one of these configurations, the rager, the optimizer, even the baseline transactor, is just the species doing its absolute best.
It reframes the whole thing so beautifully. The transactor isn't evil. They're just trying to survive the void.
The rager isn't crazy. They just want justice.
And the optimizer wants transcendence.
We are all just trying to solve the impossibly hard problem of being alive. The report concludes that the fact that we struggle so much with this transactional OS is actually proof of our deep intelligence.
Wait, how so?
Think about it. If we were truly just transaction machines, we wouldn't be so miserable about it. A vending machine doesn't get depressed.
Right.
The friction, the pain, the constant longing for something more, that proves that there is a core part of us that doesn't belong to the system. The glitch isn't in us, it's in the software.
That is a surprisingly hopeful place to land. It means the dissatisfaction we feel every day is actually a sign of profound health.
It is.
It's our inner alien, basically, saying there has to be more to life than the deal.
Exactly. The very first step to freedom is just noticing. You can't change the posture until you realize you're currently holding it.
Just catching yourself in the middle of a transaction creates that little bit of space.
The peripheral vision.
So next time you're looking at a stunning sunset and you catch yourself trying to think of a clever caption for it online,
just smile at the transactor in your head and then look back at the sun.
I want to leave you with a final thought today that comes directly from the logic of this report. It's a bit of a trap, so be careful with it.
Oh, let's hear it.
If you are currently asking yourself, was listening to this deep dive worth my time? Which configuration just asked that question?
There is no escape.
Think about that one. Thanks for exploring this with us. We'll see you next time.